show the way in which the simplest form of classical economic system would behave during a process of equilibrium growth. Um, Equilibrium growth, terms like equilibrium growth, अगर neoclassical की एक equation कही जाए, what is the equation of equilibrium growth, so that remains the same. That is y is a function of k. But in this case, equilibrium growth को अगर आप कहेंगे कि equilibrium growth को define करिए, क्या है equilibrium growth? So how will you define that? How अब तक जितना भी पढ़ा उससे क्या लगा? Equilibrium growth है क्या? Yes. Don't study like that. Give me an answer. What is equilibrium growth? Silence. अच्छा बताइए, according to Harrod, what is equilibrium growth? According to Harrod, what is equilibrium growth? Yes. G is equal to GW.
Ma'am, G is
Actually, G is equal to GW is equal to GM.
yes, ma'am.
And तीनों ही has to be equal. This is according to him. And according to Domer, I think Sanskriti was saying something. Sanskriti, according to Domer, YD is equal to YS. Okay, YD is equal to YS. So it seems that every other person have a different equilibrium growth. लेकिन steady state का जो concept है वो सब में कहीं ना कहीं same है. Can anybody define steady state for me? What is steady state growth? Or what is steady state? Any idea? चलिए यहाँ पे बिफोर स्टार्टिंग मीड सोलो का स्टेडी स्टेट लिख लीजिए. इसको याद रखिएगा प्लीज, इसको भूलिएगा नहीं कि व्हाट द डेफिनेशन व्हिच आई एम गिविंग इट टू यू. ये डेफिनेशन है स्टेडी स्टेट इन सोलो ग्रोथ मॉडल, क्योंकि मीड से पहले है तो आपको वो स्टेडी स्टेट पता होना चाहिए. द स्टेडी स्टेट इज द की टू अंडरस्टैंडिंग द सोलो मॉडल. द स्टेडी स्टेट इज द की टू अंडरस्टैंडिंग is the key to understanding the Solo model. At the steady state, an investment is equal to depreciation. At the steady state, investment is equal to depreciation. At the steady state, investment is equal to depreciation. That means that all of investment is being used. That means all of investment is being used just to repair and replace. That means that all of investment is being used just to repair and replace the existing capital stock. The existing capital stock. That means that all of investment is being used just to repair and replace the existing capital stock. No new capital is being created. No new capital is being created. So Solo's steady state model is a situation in which there is a steadiness, there is no new capital is being created. Okay. At the steady state level, there is zero economic growth. At the steady state level, there is zero economic growth. There is zero economic growth. There is just enough new capital to offset depreciation. There is just enough new capital to offset depreciation. There is just enough new capital to offset depreciation. Meaning, we get no addition to the overall capital stock. Meaning, we get no addition to the overall capital stock. इसका बहुत अच्छा एग्जाम्पल जो है स्टेडी स्टेट का, दैट इज अप्लाइड एग्जाम्पल इज सेकेंड वर्ल्ड वॉर. You can write that. We can examine steady state with the help of a growth track of. We can examine steady state with the help of growth track of Germany and Japan. We can examine steady state, the growth track of with the growth track of Germany and Japan at the close of World War II. In the beginning, their first few units of capital were extremely productive. In the beginning, the first few units of capital in the beginning, the first few units of capital were extremely productive, creating massive output, and therefore equally high amount available, creating massive output and therefore equally high amount available to be saved and reinvested. To be saved and reinvested. As time passed, the growing capital stock created less and less output. As time passed, the growing capital stock created less and less output. As time passed, the growing capital stock created less and less output as per the logic of diminishing returns. As per the logic of diminishing returns. So this is a good example of Germany and Japan, a very good example of steady state. Change the line and then write. Now, if economic growth really was just a function of capital, now if economic growth really was just a function of capital, then the losers of World War II ought to have stopped growing. Then the losers of World War II ought to have stopped growing. Once their capital level returned to steady state. Once their capital level returned to steady state. But no, although their growth did slow, it didn't stop. But no, although their growth did slow, but it didn't stop. Why is this the case? Why is this the case? Change the line and then write. Remember, capital isn't the only available variable that affects growth. Remember, capital isn't the only variable that affects growth. There are still other variables such as education and labor. Education and labor. Together, they are known as human capital. Together, they are known as human capital. So this way, you can give the example of a steady state and can say that despite the fact that some states did lost very badly, did lose very badly during the Second World War, but still they kept growing. How was that the case? So they are saying it's not just the capital which is a variable of economic growth. There are other factors also. The first one is education. The second one is labor. Together they are human capital. Who is asking me questions? Diksha is asking me questions.
Ma'am, actually, I'm having a network.
Fine, fine, fine. No problem. Can you do that, Diksha? No problem. Moving on. So ये एक diagram है to study Meade. So as you can see here, next slide. Yeah. These are the three main what you can say axiom on which the Meade is based on. The first is capital accumulation resulting from the saving made out of current income. This brings about a growth in the stock of the capital instruments of production. So whatever capital accumulation is happening, that is happening with the current income. It's not happening with the previous income. So growth of working population, growth of labor force and technical progress. तो तीन चीजों को ध्यान में रखिएगा मीट को पढ़ने के लिए. These are the three important ingredients of meat. The first is capital accumulation, which is happening from the saving that is coming out of the current income. The second is labor force growth, and the third is technical progress, which permits of growth in output through time out of a given amount of resources. Next slide. Now these three will be shown through the with the help of equation also. So we'll see. See, these are the assumptions. So we'll take one by one. A closed economy is assumed, just to keep it simple, so that no trade is taking place here, and all types of economic and financial relation with economies are assumed away. So no trade relation. Complete laissez-faire is assumed to prevail in the economy, and therefore there is no intervention by the government in the economy. Besides, the economy is working under the coordination of perfect competition. The production in the economy is assumed to take place under the condition of constant returns to scale. So the first one is a closed economy. The second one is laissez-faire economy. The third one is constant returns to scale. If in a given state of technical knowledge, all factor of production in an industry are increased by 6%, then the output will also increase by 6%. That's what constant returns means. The economy is assumed to produce only two commodities, just to keep it simple, a consumption good and a capital good. And the consumption good, satisfies all ultimate human needs of consumption. And the capital good is used to produce further the output of capital goods or consumption good. So the consumption good, satisfies all ultimate human needs of consumption, and the capital good is used to produce further the output of capital good or consumption good. So both the things, on the surface, everything looks very fine. These are the assumptions. Further, next slide. There are a few more. And like other neoclassical economists, in Meade's model, production function is assumed to be such that the substitution of one factor for another is possible. In other words, in a given state of technical knowledge, it is possible to produce the consumption good or capital good by more labor-intensive method or more land-intensive method or by more capital-intensive method, depending upon the relative cheapness of labor, land or capital. You must have noticed generally हम लोग जब इसको पढ़ते हैं इस तरीके की assumption को assume to be such a substitution of one factor. So generally the substitution is happening between labor and capital. But in this case, there is a land also included, and they are saying that to produce the consumption good, it depends that the country is good in having a capital intensive or labor intensive or land intensive. So it depends. So on all neoclassical economists, classical, assumptions of neoclassical economists. Next slide. The substitutability between machine and labor, however, is assumed to be of special type. It is assumed that all machines are alike, being regarded simply in terms of the tonnage of steel, and the ratio of labor to machinery, that is, worker to ton of steel in stock, can be altered in any desired way, both in the short run and long run. And Professor Meade calls this as the assumption of perfect malleability. Perfect malleability of absolutely right. यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है? And the concept is saying that but you can alter that proportion in your malleable. The word malleable means capable of being shaped or by hammering or pressing the extreme malleability, and you actually bring some जल्दी वो मुड़ता है उसको of the machinery. How much it can accompany the how much it can absorb the current labor force. So that's what they are counting on. The malleability and or the flexibility of the machinery means that again there has to be a it should be machine should be flexible so that you can increase the productivity of the machine. New technology say that is known as malleability of machinery. Next slide. It is also assumed that every moment of time, the production function for a unit of consumption good is the same as the production function for a unit of capital good. The implication of this is that notwithstanding the state of technical knowledge, the cost price of a machine is the same as the cost price of consumption good. Now, this is a very unrealistic assumption. Meade calls this as the assumption of perfect substitutability. जैसे पहले था perfect malleability of machinery, तो ये short note में इस तरीके से आता. What do you mean by the term perfect malleability of machinery or perfect substitutability in production between capital good and consumption good? So here he is saying that the production function for a unit of consumption good is same as the production function for a unit of capital good, which is not possible. The production function of the consumption good cannot be same with the production function of capital good for a very simple reason. Both do not depend on the same factors. Both do not get varied by the same factors. Consumption good बिल्कुल अलग चीजों पे depend कर रहा है. The implication of this is that notwithstanding the state of technical knowledge, that's what they're saying, the cost price of machinery is the same as the cost price of consumption good. Notwithstanding the state of technical knowledge. सबसे important assumption उन्होंने उसमें से हटा लिया और कहा कि अगर टेक्नोलॉजी को हटा दीजिए then there is not much difference between the cost price of machine as the cost price of consumption good. But technology actually makes all the difference. It's the technology that makes you purchase a television for 2 lakh rupees. basically you're ready to invest that much money in that gadget. Basically, earlier that particular the technology which the television was using was not costing you this much, but now it is costing you this much, and the person is readily giving for it. Why? For a very simple reason. They know that whatever they're getting is a bag, is a state of art of this particular time. So that's why. Anyway, the perfect substitutability in production function, production between capital good and consumption good, that's another assumption that is very unrealistic. Next slide. It is assumed that regardless of the length of time for which the existing machine has already been used, a certain percentage wear or tear out each year. For example, the existing stock of machine measured in tons of steel may require replacement to the extent of 5% each year due to depreciation. Professor Meade called this as the assumption of depreciation by evaporation. So depreciation by evaporation means they are saying that, see, wear and tear happens. And once the wear and tear of machinery will happen, you will need to, fix it or replace it with a new one. So, as it's written over here, the existing stock of machine measured in ton may require, replacement to the extent of 5% each year due to depreciation. So, the company or the government or the economy or have to keep depreciation costs separately in order to maintain the vintage capital. So which he called depreciation by evaporation. Evaporation meaning आपको ये चीज दिखती नहीं है ये wear and tear, but it's happening as we speak. As we speak, whatever gadgets you people are using, either a laptop or a mobile, is getting weared out. And that wear and tear, which is happening by the constant use of the machinery or the gadget, is what he meant by the term depreciation by evaporation. Next. Do we have next slide? Okay. The net amount of the stock of machine which is available to the economy at a particular time. It is net in the sense that from the existing stock of machine, the amount of depreciation has been deducted. The amount of labor available for productive employment and the amount of land or natural resources. Actually, this should have been shown earlier. For productive use in the economy and the state of technical knowledge, which is assumed to be. These are all assumptions. In the assumption, amount of land or natural resources available for productive use in the economy, they all are, kept constant. Next. Okay. Now the equations. I always like the equations in the models because equations are the ones who don't need text and can explain a lot with just one line. As you can see over here, the equation which is written over here, you can all note down by is a function of K, L, N, and T. The relationship between the net output and its determinant can be written in the form of a simple production function. See, production function, as you can see, more or less remains the same. Generally, Y is always a function of K and L and in this case T. So Y stands for, as you know, net output, and for national income in K is the existing stock of machine. L is the amount of available labor force, N is the amount of land, and T is the time which signifies technical progress as it that is technological progress is supposed to occur merely with the passage of time and permits the increase in net output without an increase in K, L or N. For a very simple reason, they say कि जैसे टेक्नोलॉजी को लीजिए, टेक्नोलॉजी जो होती है वो टाइम के साथ बेटर होती जाती है. तो ये जो सटल चेंजेस आते हैं टेक्नोलॉजी में, सपोज टू अकर merely with the passage of time and permits increase in net output without any. आपको न K न L न N किसी में बदलाव नहीं करना पड़ेगा. You don't need to increase the use of any of the three, and but still the output will increase, and that's what they're saying. They're saying that it is basically because of the technological progress. So T is a very important component here. Next. I hope you're writing the equations. Keep writing. I don't think we have a slide after this, but I'll teach a very important thing over here. जो लास्ट लाइन है, लास्ट इक्वेशन है, उसको अपने पास लिखिए. डेल्टा वाई इज इक्वल टू बी डेल्टा के प्लस डब्ल्यू डेल्टा एल प्लस डेल्टा वाई. As is clear from the production function, net output can increase in any one year due to the growth of K, L, N or T. But it is assumed that the amount of land or natural resources available to the community remains unchanged or fixed, so that there is no change in land, to affect the level of net output Y. then the growth of net output will be entirely due to the growth of KL or T. We may therefore express the total change in net output as equal to the sum of the change in output. तो land because fixed है तो उसको हटा दिया गया और उन्होंने कहा तीन इन्फ्लुएंसेस तो हैं ही इसमें taken separately. Delta y is equal to V times delta K plus W delta L. And in this case, what do they stand for? Do we have a next slide? Okay. Okay. Previous slide पे जाओ. Last slide पे जाओ. ये जो लास्ट स्लाइड थी आपकी उसकी इक्वेशन एज आई सेड इसको लिखिएगा. Now let me explain it to you. What does this mean? In this case, delta y, as I have already written, implies the total output or national income भी कह सकते हैं इसको. National income. इसमें ओके इसमें जो प्रपोर्शन दिया गया जिसमें जिससे वो चेंज हो रहा है दैट इज द कैपेसिटी फंक्शन है जिसका उसमें जो W है W and delta L. W is actually the wages which has been shown as a proportion of delta L. Okay, you can write the variables का क्या stand कर रहा है उसको देख लीजिए. Delta Y is the net output. ना आप national income भी लिख सकते हैं. Net output or national income, but in this case national income generally includes gross. And but हम यहाँ पे net output कह रहे हैं तो इसका मतलब हम depreciation हटा रहे हैं. So net output is equal to the increase in the stock of machinery. Increase in the stock of machinery bracket में लिखिएगा delta K. Increase in the stock of machinery delta K multiplied by its marginal product V. So V is nothing but the marginal product. Multiplied by marginal product V plus the increase in the amount of labor delta L plus the increase in the amount of labor delta L multiplied by its marginal product W multiplied by its marginal product W. So both of them are marginal products plus the increase in the rate of annual output plus the increase in the rate of annual output due simply to technical progress. Due simply to technical progress, which is delta Y. So this is the whole package. Delta Y is equal to V times delta K multiplied, plus W delta L. So W and V stands for marginal product of K and L. आगे लिखिएगा. Now the annual proportionate rate of growth of output. Now the annual proportionate rate of growth of output can be determined by dividing both sides of the equation by y. Both sides of the equation by y. So thus we have इसमें लिखिएगा जब y से करेंगे आप तो डेल्टा y अपॉन y, डेल्टा y को y से करेंगे डिवाइड तो आएगा this is equal to annual proportionate rate of growth of output. Annual proportionate rate of growth of output. फिर k को आप करेंगे मल्टीप्लाई तो डेल्टा k अपॉन k which is equal to annual proportionate rate of growth of the stock of machinery. Annual proportionate rate of growth of the stock of machinery delta L upon L which will give you annual proportionate rate of growth, annual proportionate rate of growth in the working population, and delta y upon y, annual proportionate rate of growth of output, annual proportionate rate of growth of output due simply to technical progress. Due simply to technical progress. Okay, now change the line. Let us denote the above four proportionate rate of growth. Let us denote the above four proportionate rate of growth by the symbols. By the symbols. Let's give them some symbols. All four of the proportionate rate of growth जो आपके सामने हैं. Let's give them all small small letter symbol. So Y, K, I, and T, all small. Y, K, I, and T. And there is one more change. Further, let us call Vk upon Y, which is the proportionate share of capital in output, which is the proportionate share of capital in output as U, capital U लिखिएगा, and WL upon Y. And WL upon Y. पहले उसने कहा VK upon Y को define करिए, which is the proportionate share of capital in output as U, total output में proportionate share of that capital, and WL upon Y, which is the proportionate share of labor in output as Q, which is the proportionate share of labor in output as Q. Using these notations, you can rewrite the basic relationship. Using these notations, we can rewrite the basic relationship in the following way. So इसको replace कर दीजिए. जहाँ पे था y, सबसे पहली equation थी y is a function of kl n n t. अब इसको replace कर दीजिए. With all the letters which I have given to you. So y, small y, is equal to qk, u capital, k small, plus qi, that is q capital, I small, plus r. Actually it's L, QL, that is a labor force. तो ये equation of substitution के बाद आएगी. Y is equal to UK plus QL plus R, small r. So what does this equation show? जो हमने अभी substitute किया है उसको लिखिए. This shows that the growth rate of output Y. This shows that the growth rate of output Y is the weighted sum of the three other rate of growth. Is the weighted sum of the three other rate of growth. Is the weighted sum of the three other rate of growth. More specifically, the growth rate of output, is the same. The growth rate of output is the same of the growth rate in the stock of machine. The growth rate of output is the same of the growth rate in the stock of machine. सो स्टॉक ऑफ मशीन ब्रैकेट में लिखिएगा स्मॉल के, weighted by the marginal importance of machinery to productive process. Weighted by the marginal importance of machinery in the productive process. U, why have they taken small k, then why have they taken capital U? Capital U plus the growth rate of labor force I. Capital U plus the growth rate of labor force I, L, weighted by the marginal importance of labor, weighted by the marginal importance of labor in the productive process, bracket में लिखिएगा capital Q, plus the growth rate of technical progress, plus the growth rate of technical progress, that is small r. That is small r. I'm going to stop here. I will not Meade अभी मैं आगे नहीं पढ़ाऊंगी, यहीं तक रखूंगी. अगर आपको लास्ट वाली इक्वेशन कुछ भी समझ में आई हो, तीनों इक्वेशन, तो वी कैन डिस्कस दैट. आप लोग बोल सकते हैं, बोलने से और समझ में आता है. सो फर्स्ट इक्वेशन, सेकेंड इक्वेशन एंड थर्ड इक्वेशन में